Hello everyone. This shir is dedicated to Nishmas my uncle Alvin, Rabbi Yosef ben Yaakov Zev. We're on Yud Amid Beis and Sechtes Makos, the top Tosis, Tanyah, Rabbi Yosef Yehuda Omer. So, as it was taught in the Brisa, Rabbi Yosef Yehuda says, initially, as soon as a killing occurs, both people that killed b'mezid and both people that killed unintentionally go immediately to Ari Miklat. So the opinion of Rabbi Yosef Yehuda is halacha is that not only a person that killed b'shagig is punished with galus and to take advantage of Ari Miklat's protection, a deliberate killer receives the death penalty and cannot take shelter in Ari Miklat. However, according to Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, he learned in the Mishnah on Testament Beis, even a deliberate killer must instantly go. In other words, ultimately he won't get protection because he's dragged out and the Goldam takes care of him. But till the point that Bezdin determines that he's chayiv misa, he must initially run to Ari Miklat, which provides him with protection from the Goldam until he's brought to Bezdin and tried, and all the different information is sorted out, so we know exactly what's going on. Rebbe's opinion, according to Rebbe, deliberate killers are not obligated to go to Ari Miklat. However, it was the practice of many such killers to go because they were mistaken and they thought that it would afford them some sort of protection. And as such, they made that mistake, and that's the reason they went to Ari Miklat. What's the objective of Taisus? Is to explain why the Gemara chose to cite the opinion of Yossi Bar Yehuda from a Brisa rather than a Mishnah. And it's quite understandable. Because if you have a choice between proving your position from a Brisa or proving your position from a Mishnah, it is more choshev, it is more impressive to prove it from a Mishnah, which is a more authoritative text. Brisas were not recorded, written. In other words, when you open up your Kahati, it's Mishnayos, it's not Kahati Brisa. You don't have elucidated Brisa, you elucidated Mishnah. That doesn't mean that a Brisa is not authoritative, but when given the choice between the two, you always go with the Mishnah. So Taisus asks a question. Vim Taimar, Frek Taisus, why does the Gemara not cite the teachings of Yossi Bar Yehuda from our Mishnah on Testament Beis, which says the same as the Brisa, that even a deliberate killer goes first in Ar Miklat and remains there until he is brought to Bezdin to be tried? Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda said that on Testament Beis. Taisus answers that Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda's teaching as presented in the Mishnah could be misunderstood. And because it was clearer to quote it from the Brisa, that's the reason we quoted the Brisa and not the Mishnah as proof. Yesh Laimar, we can answer the Masnisan Ikal Lameimar Delay Chayvim Kamar. That if the source of Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda's ruling is the Mishnah, you may say that Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda is not saying that deliberate killers are obligated to go to Galus initially. We would have thought by looking at that Mishnah that they merely would have gone on their own. Because they mistakenly believed that Ari Miklat provided protection for deliberate killers, and in panic, they would have run there. Just like Rebbe's opinion here in the Brisa is that they mistakenly decided to go. That's the opinion quoted here in our Brisa. So if we would have learned the Mishnah over there as proof to Rabbi Yehuda, we would have thought that that's what he meant. So it's not clear from the Mishnah that Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda means that all killers are required to go initially to Galus. It doesn't say required, it's open-ended. And since we could learn it as if it's saying that, like Rebbe, that he went there mistakenly, therefore the Gemara cited the Brisa instead, which does make the obligation clear. In the Brisa it says they're obligated to run. Now Taisus is going to show how the Brisa makes it clear that according to Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda, deliberate killers are obligated to go initially to Ari Miklat. Remember, we just said that, now we have to back it up. According to the Brisa, it's made perfectly clear that Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda means that a deliberate killer must initially go to Golis. This is evident from the fact that the Brisa, Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda cites a pasuk to support his teaching about people that kill a mezid. This shows that Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda views the flight of this mezid killer to Golis as an obligation written in the Torah. Now, in the Brisa, Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda shows support from the following pasuk discussing a deliberate killer, which is found in Devarim Yud Tes, Psukim Yud Al through Yud Beis. V'chiyeh ish soina l're'ehu v'arav loy v'kamalav v'hikahu nefesh v'meis v'nas al achas ha'arim ha'el v'shalchu ziknei ira v'lakchu oisem misham v'nasnu oisem b'yad goel hadam v'meis. But if there will be a man who hates his friend and ambushes him and rises up against him, and he strikes him mortally to kill him, and he dies, and the killer flees to one of these cities, then the elders of his city shall send and take him from there and place him in the hand of the Gael Adam, and he shall die. So if Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda were telling you basically that these people went on a voluntary basis to go to Gullus, based on the mistake that they made that they had to go to Gullus, the pasuk would have no relevance. We would need a pasuk. Why is he bringing a pasuk? Rav Yossi would not have cited it. What, he's just doing it for his own health? The reason he cites it is a support that it's a chiyuv, is an obligation for people that killed the Mazid. They have to run to Gullus. Again, Abu Babraisa Muchach Shapit the Chayvim Kamar. Even the Braisa, it's made perfectly clear. The Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda means that deliberate killers must initially go to Gullus. Midamaisi pasuk Gabi Mazid. This is evident from the fact that in the Braisa, Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda cites a pasuk to support his teachings. This shows that he means business. Avol the Masnisa Loi Maisi Kro Gabi Mazid. But the Mishnah of Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda does not cite a pasuk about deliberate killers going to Gullus L'Chatchila. Therefore, the Mishnah of Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda could be understood as saying that deliberate killers voluntarily make it their practice like Rebbe, but not that they are required to go to Gullus. To avoid the misconception, the Gemara quotes the Braisa, which is clear, and says, Taisus came near L'Mari Sheyicha. This seems correct to my teacher, may he live. The Taisus presents another way of knowing that the Braisa that Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda was brought down in is saying that a deliberate killer is obligated to go initially to Gullus. The first way, we knew that he meant business because he brought a pasuk. Now we're going to come with a different approach. It's impossible to say Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda says that they're going on their own. Even if Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda didn't quote a pasuk, it would have been self-evident. Why? Because then Kain Hainu Rebbe, that's exactly what Rebbe says. Rebbe says that they go on their own because they're mistaken. Now, if you're going to say that Rebbe Yehuda says the same thing, Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda says the same thing, then what's the point of bringing himself down? He's saying the same exact thing as Rebbe. Rebbe says that they go on their own because they made a mistake, and Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda says they go on their own and because they go and make a mistake. So it would not make any sense to bring two like shitas. What's the point? We're not stacking the deck over here. We don't need 20 different people saying the same thing. And what my what? Rav Yossi Bar Yehuda is saying something different. He's saying that they're mechuyev to go, and not like Rebbe who says that's something that they do on their own. So that ends that Taisus. Let's do the next Taisus. Regarding a city that has no elders in it, there's a dispute between Ravami and Ravasi. One says that the city brings an Egla Rufa, and one says that it does not. And we know Egla Rufa, if a murdered person is found near two cities, and the identity of the murderer is unknown. We don't know who killed the person. The elders of the Great Sanhedrin must measure the distance between each of the two cities and the dead body, and determine which of the two cities is closest to the dead body. Afterwards, the elders, the Bezdin of that city, must bring a female calf. And as a city that is closest, that Bezdin has to bring a female calf that was never used for work, that decapitated in a barren valley, wash their hands over the decapitated calf, and make a statement denying responsibility for the death. And why would they be responsible? Bring them a Rashi brings down, because a person, if he's not properly escorted out of the city, that is a grave sin, because a person then feels dejected. And if a person feels psychologically dejected and he is accosted by a murderer, some highwayman, he will not fight so hard to protect his life because he doesn't value himself. So there's a dispute, the Gemara brings down, as mentioned before, between Ravami and Ravasi. They disagree regarding a city that has no Bezdin. According to one view, the Egla Rufa is not brought in that case. The city that is closest is a city that doesn't have the person inside of it. Let me just pause for a second. Let me just fix the lights. Hold on 1 second.